There's a misunderstanding a lot of smart employees carry for way too long. You think your manager is there to grow you, to mentor you, to notice your potential, to guide your career like some kind of professional parent. And sometimes, if you get very lucky, that happens. But in most organizations, that's not what your manager is actually there to do. Your manager is not primarily responsible for your future. They are responsible for output, stability, deadlines, headcount, and keeping problems from moving upward. That's the real job. And once you understand that, a lot of things that felt personal start making sense. Why they praise you, but never advocate for you. Why they say you're doing great, but nothing changes. Why they keep giving you more work instead of more opportunity. Why every career conversation somehow turns into a conversation about team needs. It's because when you say, I want to grow, you mean, I want movement. But when they hear it, they often hear, you may become a staffing problem. That's the hidden translation. You thought the conversation was about development. They thought the conversation was about risk. And that gap, right there, is where a lot of careers quietly stall. Because most employees are operating from a very innocent assumption. If I work hard, stay loyal, make my manager's life easier, then when the time comes, they'll help me move up. That sounds reasonable. It also sounds mature. It sounds professional. And it fails all the time. Not because your manager is evil, not even because they dislike you. It fails because your success and your manager's convenience are not always aligned. In fact, sometimes they are directly opposed. If you are the reliable one, the one who fixes the broken process, the one who handles the messy client, the one who trains the new hire without making a scene, then you are not just performing well. You are holding a section of their world together. That means losing you creates pain. Immediate pain, visible pain, administrative pain, political pain. And most managers are not rewarded for creating that pain in the name of your long-term development. They are rewarded for keeping the machine running. So when you imagine your manager asking, how do I help this person grow? A lot of managers are actually asking, how do I keep this person engaged enough not to leave while still keeping this team functional? That's a very different question. And once you see that, the mixed signals stop being confusing. The compliment with no promotion, the stretch assignment with no title change, the leadership praise with no sponsorship, the "you're so valuable" speech that somehow leaves you in the exact same place. That's not always recognition. Sometimes that's retention language. Sometimes "you're invaluable" really means it would be inconvenient for me if you moved. And that realization hurts because it forces you to confront something ugly. You can be deeply appreciated and still be strategically contained. A lot of people never recover from that realization cleanly. They become bitter. And honestly, I get why. Because from your side, it feels like betrayal. You gave them your energy, your reliability, your flexibility, your emotional restraint. You solved problems without drama. You made your manager look competent in rooms you weren't even in. And then when you finally ask for movement, what do you get? Let's revisit this next quarter. We just need you here a little longer. The business is in a sensitive moment. You're doing such important work right now. I see leadership potential in you. Potential. The most dangerous compliment in corporate life, because potential is flattering enough to keep you hopeful and vague enough to delay anything real. That's why some people spend 2 or 3 years living inside promise language. Always almost ready. Always on the verge. Always one more cycle away. And the longer that goes on, the more psychologically damaging it becomes. You start doubting your read on the situation. Maybe I'm being impatient. Maybe I need to prove myself more. Maybe this is just how growth works here. Then you watch someone else get pulled into a better project. Someone louder, someone sloppier, someone who doesn't even seem half as solid as you. And now the confusion turns into something heavier, a knot in the stomach, a quiet humiliation. That specific kind of professional sadness where you realize effort and trajectory are not the same thing, because what you wanted was advancement. But what the system rewarded was strategic visibility, portability, and narrative. And your manager may have never been building that for you. This is the part nobody says clearly enough. A manager can like you, trust you, depend on you, and still not be the person who gets you where you want to go. Dependence is not advocacy. Those are different things. The person who depends on your output is not automatically invested in your mobility. Sometimes they're the main obstacle to it. Not because they wake up wanting to block you, because they are solving for their own pressure first. Always. They have targets. They have budget pressure. They have headcount constraints. They have a boss asking why timelines slipped. They have their own promotion story to manage. And inside all of that, your ambition becomes one variable among many. That's why so many employees make a fatal mistake. They tell their manager everything. Their frustration, their hopes, their timeline, their disappointment, their hunger for more. They think honesty will create support. Sometimes it creates caution instead. Because now your manager knows you may leave. Now they know you're dissatisfied. Now they know your loyalty has limits. And if they are mature and generous, that may motivate them to help. But if they are politically average, insecure, or overloaded, it may simply change how they classify you. Not fully committed, restless, needs managing, possible flight risk. Again, not because you did anything wrong, because information changes incentives. This is why career growth gets misunderstood so badly. People think the path is perform well, be loyal, tell your manager what you want, and wait. That sounds clean. It sounds rational. It also assumes your manager is the center of your career universe. They are not. They are one stakeholder. Important, yes, but still, just one. And if you build your whole future around their recognition, you are placing your career inside someone else's workload calculation. That is too fragile. So what do you do instead? First, stop treating your manager like a career savior. Treat them like a business stakeholder with partial influence. That shift matters. Because once you stop expecting emotional fairness from the relationship, you think more clearly. You stop asking, why aren't they taking care of me? And start asking, what incentives are shaping their behavior? That question will get you much closer to the truth. Second, make your career legible beyond your manager. If only one person can describe your value, you are vulnerable. Your work needs witnesses. Not 1,000 people, a few relevant ones. Cross-functional partners, skip-level leaders, people adjacent to power. People who can say your name in a room you're not in. Not because you want attention, because private excellence is fragile. If your entire reputation lives inside your manager's interpretation, then your future can shrink to the size of their bias, their stress level, or their convenience. That's too small a container for your career. Third, separate performance from positioning. Keep doing strong work. Obviously. But understand that good work alone does not create a promotion narrative. You also need evidence of readiness for what's next. That means solving a broader class of problems, communicating trade-offs, not just completing tasks, showing judgment, not just effort, making your thinking visible, not only your labor. A lot of people are waiting to be noticed for the next level while still behaving like the current one. Organizations don't usually promote hidden capacity. They promote visible pattern recognition. If you want the next role, parts of the next role have to show up in how people already experience you. Fourth, reduce emotional overexposure. You do not need to confess every frustration to your manager. You do not need to narrate every disappointment in real time. And you definitely do not want your ambition to sound like resentment. Professional clarity beats emotional leakage. Instead of saying, I feel like I've been overlooked for a long time, Say, I want to better understand what specific experiences would strengthen my case for the next level, instead of saying, I'm doing everything and getting nothing back. Say, I'd like to align on what outcomes would position me for expanded scope. Same reality, different leverage. One sounds hurt, the other sounds strategic. And whether people admit it or not, organizations respond better to strategy than pain. Fifth, build optionality before desperation. This is where people usually wait too long. They wait until they are exhausted, until the resentment is visible in their face, until every meeting feels personal, until they are so emotionally depleted that even updating a resume feels impossible. Don't do that. If your growth depends on one manager suddenly becoming brave, generous, organized, and politically helpful, you do not have a plan. You have a wish. Optionality means internal relationships, external conversations, a stronger story, a clearer market value, a version of your future that does not require one person to finally do the right thing. Because once you have options, everything changes. Your manager's delays stop feeling absolute. Their vague promises stop controlling your mood. Their approval stops carrying the full emotional weight of your future. And that shift is powerful. Because the deepest damage these situations do is not just career delay, it's psychological dependency. You start needing tiny signs from your manager to feel okay. A compliment, a good one-on-one, a hopeful sentence, a mention of future opportunities. And your nervous system starts living on crumbs. That's not career development. That's emotional rationing. You become hyper-attuned to someone who may have very limited intention of moving you anywhere. And over time, that does something to your confidence. It makes you smaller, more cautious, more eager to please, less likely to disrupt, less likely to ask directly for what you need, more likely to keep proving yourself to a person who already benefits from you staying exactly where you are. That's the trap. The trap is not having a bad manager. The trap is misreading the relationship. Believing dependence means loyalty. Believing praise means advocacy. Believing access means protection. Believing patience always gets rewarded. Sometimes it does. A lot of times, it just makes you easier to keep. So here's the reframe. Your manager does not need to be your enemy for you to outgrow their usefulness. They do not need to be malicious for their incentives to be misaligned with your future. And you do not need to be angry to respond intelligently. You just need to stop waiting for care where the system is optimized for utility. Do your job well. Yes, but don't confuse being useful with being developed. Don't confuse being trusted with being sponsored. And absolutely do not confuse being needed with being advanced. Those are different things, and if you don't learn that early, you can lose years to it. Years spent being the answer to someone else's problems, while your own career stays suspended in polite language. That's why the smartest move is not to work less, it's to see more clearly. See the incentives, see the translation behind the praise, see the difference between a manager who values you and a manager who is actually willing to move you. Because once you can tell those apart, you stop building your future on gratitude and start building it on strategy. And that is usually the moment your career actually begins to move.